All right, guys. So we're now looking at a 5-1 SPR. And we should expect to see more of the same from the previous one, which is basically that even though out of position has strong hands a lot and in position is 80% cap, the 20% nut ratio for the in position player is enough to keep the bet sizing small, although the betting frequency will stay high. So let's go ahead. So betting frequency stays high, bet sizing stays low. And we can see this pocket tens combo now is all the way down to 10% bet sizing. I can safely say I didn't expect that, to be honest with you. I didn't think that this would get quite this far down. I think that's pretty interesting. And the bluff to value ratio dropping is predictable, or being quite low, right? Like as the bet sizing comes in, bluff to value ratio drops, and we don't get to use as many bluffs. Of course, we already know that like the checking range is not interesting. All these hands, yes, all these hands have 100% equity. Okay, so these numbers that you're seeing populate on the right, that's the amount of equity. That's how much of the pot they're going to win. They're going to win 100 chips out of the 100 chips. So they're all the same hands. So not super interesting to look at the check. This part's all pretty standard, so we can pretty quickly just get straight into the versus bet strategy. All right, guys, let's go ahead and take a look at this versus pot strategy, or sorry, versus bet strategy. We're going to bet half pot as the out of position player here. And we do expect a 33% fold, which is exactly what we get. So no surprise there. All of the hands that are mixing to fold are worth the same. They're all worth 0. So hand's worth 0 as a call and 0 as a fold, which is what you'd expect if it's doing both actions. And aces is worth money. So yeah, that's not super surprising. At half pot, the out of position strategy just has enough pocket aces in it that betting to a jam is not the way to EV maximize for the in position player. It's rather to bet 300. Again, we've talked a little bit about how it's more predictable. Like it's less knowable, or it's more difficult to know exactly where this should fall. Like, should this be 200? Should this be 300? It's difficult to know. What betting 100 is probably not going to work because it's just too small, right? Like raising to 100 is probably not going to work. You're not making enough money. Getting called too often by worse hands, which is kind of counterintuitive for a lot of people. Like, hey, look, we're getting like called all the time. It's like, yeah, you're also not making any money, so it sucks. So min raising is no good. But raising to 300 is where the EV maximizing takes place, not 500. So even though you are still getting value from worse when you bet 500, and you are getting fold still when you raise to like 100 or 50 more. Those two extremes aren't the ways to maximize the EV of the range. The way to maximize the EV of this range here is to raise to 300, and so it's usually not as easy to know what to do. It's usually easier to know what not to do. You might have been able to get like, hey, maybe I shouldn't raise because maybe the guy has pocket aces too often. Maybe I shouldn't raise to 500. Maybe I shouldn't jam because maybe the other guy's pocket aces too often for that to be the best answer. And maybe I shouldn't min raise because that's not going to generate enough value, and his range isn't that strong. So maybe I should be raising like 200 to 300 or something. But knowing which one, or knowing what frequencies, like that's gonna be really hard. But again, fortunately for us, all we're trying to do is play better. We're not trying to play perfect. Okay, it's very important that we don't lose sight of the goal. The goal is to play better than the other 8 players at a 9-handed table, or the goal is to play better than the other 5-handed tables at a 6-handed table. The goal is not to play perfectly. Okay, so you've got to be forgiving of yourself when you make mistakes, and you've got to make sure that you're not seeking perfection in every spot, because seeking perfection in every spot is going to be very time consuming, which is very expensive, because in poker, we're always managing opportunity costs. Opportunity cost is a huge component of this game. And if you play spots real well, then you need to go find some spots that you play real poorly. Go fix those. So the one exception to that would be like that I would say that you want to try to get performance at the absolute highest level possible, and you want to squeeze out every inch, because there are exceptions to this opportunity cost framework. The one exception would be like button big blind at like 30 big blind or so, like one of the most common spots in the game that comes up all the time. Like in that situation, it's going to be more economic for you to try to squeeze out the inches than it is to get like, much better at like under the gun versus under the gun +1, for example, in a 3-bet pot, right? So there are exceptions to every rule, but we're not seeking perfection for the most part. We're just seeking to play better than other players at the table. And in that regard, knowing to raise it 200 or 300 is good enough. So, all right, guys, with that, we can conclude this one and move on to the next one.